video, we will be using the drafting and annotation workspace. But there is also the 3D basics and the 3D modeling. The fourth kind is AutoCAD Classic. Now AutoCAD LT, if that's what you're working in right now, you'll notice you don't have the 3D modeling and basics workspaces. That's because AutoCAD LT does not have 3D functionality in it, so therefore you don't need those commands. But otherwise it works the same way. To turn on the Classic workspace, just click it. This will get rid of the ribbon, turn on many of your toolbars, some of your tool palettes, and the menu bar. It looks very different, doesn't it? Yes, it does. We'll talk about tool palettes later on. They're fantastic and are very useful and very easy to customize as well. I'll click here to close them. But as you can see, the menu bar resembles the ribbon. Well, since the menu bar was there first, I think it's more appropriate to say that the ribbon resembles the menu bar. But here's your file. Here you have a lot of the commands. It has icons in it, so it's a little visual, but it's mostly text-based. You have your recent files down here on the list of what you've been working on, your utilities, plotting, opening, saving, etc. If you want to edit, you click on the edits. If you want to draw, like in the draw panel, you come here and here are your commands: line, circle, arc, etc. Just click the command you want, and everything else functions the exact same way as before. There are also toolbars. These are your toolbars. You can click them, drag them, put them to wherever you want. You can close them by clicking on the X. If you right-click anywhere on the toolbars, you can get to different toolbar groups. These are all the toolbars that you can turn on. The ones with the check marks on them are the ones that are on right now. Just find the one you want, and it will come on. Here it is. You can turn it off again. Now, if you've turned off a toolbar and you don't know which one it was you turned off, you'll just have to go back until you find one listed that's not on and turn it on. The toolbars will appear into the last place you had them. If we move it over here, but then turn it off and on again, this is where it will appear. Find the one that you turned off and turn it back on. Pretty simple. So as you can see, the toolbars are all over the screen. Here's the line command. I just pick it and go for it. Again, use what you want. The toolbars and the menu bar were the standard of drawing in AutoCAD for many years until the ribbon came by. Moving from this interface to the ribbon interface was difficult for many users. However, I have found that the ribbon is much more intuitive because it does not spread the commands throughout your screen. The ribbon keeps everything in a centralized place, keeps them in one place. I know where to go when I need the command. But you can work however you want. You can use the ribbon and turn on the toolbars all at the same time and just add them to it. That's up to you. If you don't like this, you can always go back to the drafting and annotation workspace. And there it is. And you can turn the menu bar on without turning on any of the toolbars. Just type on the command line, menu bar, and press enter. It has two settings, 0 and 1. 0 is off, 1 is on. And now I have the menu bar. It's going to take up a little bit more screen, but it's here. Here are my options for the file, to draw, to dimension, etc. So if you're moving from the old style to the new style of interface for AutoCAD and you're watching this video, you may want to turn on your menu bar and use it. I'm going to leave it turned off for the remainder of this training video because I think the ribbon is a better situation. However, what's right and what's wrong is relative again. So use the form of input and interface that suits your needs best. several ways to open files and access them while you're working. In this section, we will look at file tabs. File tabs are found right here below the ribbon. We have the ribbon, and then we have our file tabs. There is a tab displayed for every file that you have opened. So I have 4 files open: construction lines, movie house, multi-lines, and polyline splines. Click the tab of the file you want to make current. That will activate that file. File tabs are a very nice visual display that give you quick access to your open files. So as I click on any of these tabs, I will get access instantly to that file. The tabs will be displayed in the order that you open the files. So I opened up construction lines first, then movie house, etc. But if you want them in a different order, that's fine. Just click, hold it, and then drag it. You can see it will get moved around. If you have a bazillion files open and there isn't enough room to display all the tabs, an overflow menu on the right side of the screen will pop up. You'll be able to access your files that way. So if a file is opened as a read-only file, a lock icon will appear. And I do have one of those opened. That is the polyline splines. As you can see, here on the left is a little lock. That means it's locked. So if I try to save this file, it won't let me because I've opened it read-only. Now, if you see a little asterisk, like in this construction lines drawing, it's kind of hard to see. It's real small, but it's there. You can see that it's not here on these other two. That means that I have edited the file, but I haven't saved any of my changes yet. That's a nice visual cue that I found very useful. It lets you know, hey, look, you need to save that file before you lose anything. So if I quick save, just by pressing Control and S on the keyboard, you'll see that asterisk goes away. So when you pass the cursor over a file tab, you get a little preview of all of the model space and paper space tabs. So with this construction line one, though I have it open right now, you'll see here's the model space tab and 2 layout tabs. There's nothing in either of these. But if I go to the movie house one, I'm not clicking on it, I'm just hovering over it. You'll see I have something here in model space and in this paper space tab called dimension. So when you do pass over them, you'll get a little thumbnail preview. It will also give you a display in the drawing area when you hover over the preview of each tab. You also get a chance to publish or print that tab. So you don't have to necessarily activate the file to print it out. You could just come here, click plot, and it will go to plot that file. Now, if you right click on the file tab, I get the options to create a new file, to open an existing file, to save this file, to save as, to save all of the files, or to close this file, close all of them except this one I have clicked on. One of my 2 favorite options on here is to copy the full file path or to open the file location. And what that means is if I copy the full file path by left clicking, that copies the pathway, the full pathway of this file. So I know exactly where it is to my Windows clipboard. So now I can paste that into an email or into a report, or I can even paste it as text right here into my AutoCAD file. Now you can see where it is. And that's just text. Now the open file location will open Windows Explorer into the exact folder on my computer of where the file is. So you'll be able to get right to it. Here's the CAD file. I can do whatever I want to with it. Now that's really handy. Believe me, working with AutoCAD all day, every day, I find that I need to do these 2 things often. So these 2 tools alone are very useful. If you look and see the little plus icon here at the end of all the file tabs, if you left click on it, that is starting the new command. It will open your folder where all of your templates are. Just go to any of these template files is fine, click open, opens it up, and I have a new file. And since it's the latest one that I've opened, it puts it up here on the right side, and I get my previews. Now, if you see the little X, that will close the file. In the ribbon, we're here on the Home tab, we get most of our commands, but if you go to the View tab on the ribbon, and you come to the User Interface panel, there's a button here called File Tabs. If I click this, it will toggle the file tabs off. So I'm going to turn that off to help save us some screen real estate. But you can always turn it back on just by coming to the View tab on the ribbon, the User Interface panel, and File Tabs. Click it, it will bring them all back. You can leave that on or off. I showed you how to customize your mouse right click to open a shortcut menu. I like to have these turned on because they can give you quick access to often used commands or tools right where you're working. you won't have to hunt for them or type on the command line to get them. There are several different shortcut menus that you can use. Each one depends on your current activity or situation. If you don't have anything going on, meaning you haven't selected an object, nor have you started a command, then a right-click will get you the default shortcut menu. I'll show you. I have some basic shapes here: rectangle, circle, triangle, and then a line. I have no command started and nothing selected. Right-click and a hold, because that's the way I have my settings set up. If I did just a right-click, it repeats my last command. So right-click, hold, and I have my default shortcut menu. With it, you can cut, copy, paste, pan, zoom, move, and more. You have a lot of different clipboard functionalities. You can isolate objects, undo, move, etc. Very useful, very common operating tools that you have available to you right there, right by your mouse. So you don't have to hunt for them. You don't have to type them on the command line. You can get to them very quickly and very easily. It's a big time saver. Now, if you have an object that's selected and you want to get to the edit mode shortcut menu, again, just right click. Now, depending on your functionality, it's going to depend on what you're going to be able to do. So how you want it to behave, if it's not behaving the way I'm showing you, you may want to take a look at it. Go to your user preferences, right-click customizations, and turn your shortcut menus on. Hit apply and close, and OK. Now, what you want to do in the edit mode is not hold. As I was showing you there, I was having trouble with it. When you select something and right-click and hold, it executes a special option that allows you to move, copy, or paste your object, or just cancel. That's a edit mode right-click menu option. Now, the way I have everything set at the moment, I can select it and then right-click. Not a right-click and hold, but a right-click. And now I get my editing shortcut menu. I can repeat my command, recent input, clipboard again, isolate, or I can erase, move, copy, scale, rotate, drawing order, etc. As you can see, most of these commands are self-explanatory. It's the command itself. I can't really rotate a circle, but I can scale it, or I can copy it. Let's try that one. Now I just tell AutoCAD where I want to put my circles. When I'm finished with the command, I press enter, or right-click, or escape. Now I can rotate this triangle by selecting it, then right-click, and pick the rotate option. Pick my base point of rotation, and now my angle of rotation. I don't have to hunt for a command. I don't have to type in anything. I can just work. That's where right-click shortcuts come in handy. Now, when a command has been started and you right-click, you'll get the command mode options. For example, L for line. We'll start something and then we'll right-click. That works as an enter command, the way my settings are. So I'll start my line command again and hold, right-click and hold. Now I can go to enter, I can cancel the command, recent input, on which I've created lines, or the points to the lines. I can use my snap overrides. We'll talk about snap overrides in another section, but the snap overrides will snap you right into place. They will make sure that you are drawing accurately. They will take you to an endpoint of an object, like the vertex or vertice of one of these rectangular or square-like corners. It will take you to the endpoint of a line, etc. You can go right to the center of a circle, to the quadrant, a tangent point, to a perpendicular aspect of an object, parallel, etc. They get you right to the point. They are called snaps. Or I can pan, zoom, get my steering wheel or the quick calculator up. Now, the command line shortcut menu will be different all the time. meaning for different commands it will look different. That was the line command. Let's start the move command. Pick my point and right-click and hold. Some of the basics are there, like the panning and zooming, etc. Entering, canceling, recent input, because I'm going from coordinate to coordinate, that's similar, but I have different dynamic input. I can turn on absolute coordinates or go to a WCS coordinate. Absolute coordinate means the exact value. I'm going 5 units away from my current point, or the WCS, which is the World Coordinate Systems, meaning I'm going to an exact coordinate, regardless of how far away it is. And again, I get my snap overrides. So you can see the right-click command shortcut menu will vary for different commands because different commands and tools have different needs and functions. So that will vary slightly. Typically, right-clicking will give you an appropriate shortcut menu for what you're currently doing. So as you work with AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT, and you need to do something with your command or an object, or you're in some situation and you're not sure what to do, right-click. It could be a real time saver. Also, it will help you to learn the abilities of the commands that you're using. So I have a saying, when in doubt, right-click. Everything in AutoCAD can be customized, even the right-click function. It used to be that the right-click was nothing more than an enter command. Well, you still have that option, and it's a great time-saving option. But you can use either the enter or the shortcut version of the right-click. There's even a hybrid version, which we went over earlier in another section, but we'll quickly review it again. To set this, open the Options menu by right-clicking with nothing selected and with no command started. You can right-click or right-click and hold depending on how your settings are. And go to the Options. And go to the User Preferences tab and to the right-click Customization. This is how I typically work. The default setting is with this turned off and the shortcut menus all turned on. And as you can see, we have the default mode, the edit mode, and the command mode. Each one basically repeats the last command, which is the enter key, or a shortcut menu. Now the command mode is slightly different. It's enter, shortcut menu, which is always enabled, or a shortcut menu enabled when a command option is present. So in other words, it will give you the shortcut menu only when there are options. Essentially, it's going to be all the time. There are very few cases where you won't be able to have this criteria. But what I prefer to do is to use the time-sensitive right-click, or the hybrid version, so that you get the enter key and the shortcut menu functionality in your right-clicking. You don't get that option in edit mode, so I typically keep it as a shortcut menu. When I use the shortcut menu in edit mode, I can still have an option for the enter button, if that's what I want to do. Find the settings that work best for you. This is my recommendation. Do what works best for you. Apply and close, and OK. Another form of interface in AutoCAD is the palette. We've seen a couple of palettes so far, and we've mentioned them, but we haven't gone into a lot of detail as to what they are. Many managers and tools are in the form of a palette. The command line is a palette. These palettes have tools, commands, or information in them that allow you to manipulate your objects or add to your drawing. One palette that I always use is the Property Manager palette. To open it, press the Control key and the number 1 key at the same time. This will open up your Properties palette. It may or may not show up exactly on your screen like I have because I've used it before and I'm always using it. In my typical workflow, I will have the Properties palette open all the time. I almost never close it unless I happen to need more screen space for some reason. But that's up to you. You can do what you want. It's easy to turn off and on. Just press Control and 1 at the same time. Turn it off or to turn it on. So it's very simple to get to. Very easy to access. This palette will show you the properties of any object or objects that you've selected. It also allows you to change the properties of the selected object. So let's pick something. Anything. If you don't have anything drawn, go ahead and draw something, a line, a circle, anything. Once you pick it, you'll see here in the Properties menu that it tells you what it is. By clicking on this arrow, you will also see what you have selected if you've selected more than one object. I can keep selecting things and add to them. Now, it tells me that I have 7 objects selected and that all of them are listed. If I click the arrow, it better defines what's been selected. 1 line, 5 circles, and 1 polyline. The polyline is this rectangle. Now I can get to the attributes for that 1 line, and it tells me my starting and ending vertices, the deltas, their lengths, their area. I can unselect these objects by pressing the escape key, and now nothing is selected. Now the properties palette tells you your current settings in the drawing. This properties palette, which we'll go more in depth on later on, has a lot of functionality to it. But all palettes have several things in common. I can dock them or not dock them. I can move them around anywhere I want on my screen. I can close them, open them back up again. I can hide them, and by hovering over them or moving back over, they pop up. And when I start to work somewhere else, they go away, but they're still here. So they don't take up a lot of room, but I can still get to them. I can change their sizes, all that I want. All I need to do is move my mouse over the edge, get the moving arrows, and have at it. I can tell them to stay out all the time. And if I click on the bar and hold it with a left click, I can dock them on the side. Hold it with a left click, I can dock them on the side. Or I can just pull them out again. Now if I auto hide them and then dock them, that's what they'll do. I can right click on and allow the docking or not, or I can just let them go. So you have a lot of display options with your palettes. Another major palette that I want to show you is the tool palette. Press Ctrl and 3 at the same time to bring it up. This palette, the tool palette, is full of blocks, hatch patterns, materials, commands, custom script files, etc. It's the main source for your block library, or at least it can be. The tool palette is tabbed, like the ribbon, to different design genres: architect, mechanical, electrical, civil, etc. This is the out-of-the-box tool palette. But the tool palette is extremely easy to customize. Essentially, you're going to right-click and make a new palette and then literally drag and drop things right into it. Commands, objects, etc. We'll talk more about it later. But it's a very useful and a very powerful palette. To use it, just find the object that you want to insert, click it, and then click the point where you want it to go. And you just inserted that object. There you go. There are many objects in here. The mechanical has imperial and metric samples of different shoulder screws, etc., nuts, bolts, things like that. The architectural has different doors and windows, and even plants and some vehicles. There are so many different tabs in the tool palette that you can't see them all. You can see right here in the bottom that there are a little bit showing. Right-click on it, and here are all the possible tabs that you can pick from. As you can see, some of these even have commands in them, like the line, construction, polyline, etc. So you can put blocks, you can put hatch patterns, you can put commands into the tool palette. It's easily customized and very powerful. Another useful palette is the Quick Calc palette. That's a calculator. So you can essentially have a calculator with you inside AutoCAD wherever you go. Just press Ctrl and 8 at the same time. And here it is. It works like any other palette. You can move it around, you can auto hide it, you can collapse it, you can stretch it out, and it has different formats. Your regular number pad, scientific calculator, units conversion, etc. You can show some of the detail or hide some of it if it's too big or too small. We'll take a look at this a lot closer. I just wanted to give you an example of some of the palettes that you can use inside AutoCAD to help you do your job. There are some other palettes available, but their complexity goes way beyond the scope of this video, and we are going to look at some of them more closely later on. But suffice it to say, the palette is another format of a window that you can interact with inside AutoCAD. They can be rearranged in your drawing area, they can be docked or locked into position, or they can just float around and you can move them as you need to. They can hide themselves or they can stay open. You can right click, and remember, pick up on the right clicking here. You can right click on things, get more options to them. You can make the palettes as bars or whichever you need. If I right click here, I can get a lot more different settings. I can hide them even more or make them completely solid. So when in doubt, right click and use a palette. Use a shortcut window, use more functionality in your command, etc. In the previous section, we discussed the value of inputting commands with the keyboard. One key to efficiency in AutoCAD is taking advantage of keyboard shortcuts or command aliases, and also the function keys. Let's look at the function keys first. They work like toggles. They turn certain drawing aids on and off. The two you're going to use the most will be the F3 key and the F8 key. The F3 key will toggle your running O-snaps on and off. O-snaps are drawing tools that force AutoCAD to draw objects to very specific places on another drawing object. In the video section where we looked at the right-click shortcut windows, we found the running O-snaps, or the O-snap override commands. Well, running O-snaps are O-snaps that are always on. If I were to draw a line, and I wanted to draw it from the center of this circle to the top point of this triangle, how would I do that? Well, I would use O-snaps. If I start the line command, and with my O-snaps on, I get a glyph. That little green circle right at the middle of the circle there, that is the center O-snap. Also, there's a little text box there that has the word center on it. So when I'm in a command, a drawing command or an editing command, and I need to snap to specific points of an object, like the center of a circle, I use the running O-snaps to do so. Once the glyph is highlighted or showing, I can left click to start my line. Now I picked the center of that circle. Now to draw to the end point of this triangle, or to the point of it, I just do the same thing. I move my mouse with the cursor and the crosshairs near that endpoint, and the endpoint running O-snap glyph will be shown. Then I click, and there you go. I drew a line from the center of the circle to the point of that triangle. Now I can toggle those running O-snaps on and off by pressing the F3 key. As you see, I just pressed it, and the command line says O-snap off. If I were to draw a line again, and I want to get to the center of the circle, I don't have that running O-snap available. Same way with the endpoints. They won't go. And we'll take a deeper look later on into all of the exact details of the running O-snaps and how to decide which ones are on, which ones are off. In short, these are your options. You have an endpoint, a midpoint, center point, nodes, quadrants, etc. There's a lot. Everyone here that is checked is what's going to be turned on. I can turn them all on, turn them all off, or just turn a few on. It depends on how you want to work. Of course, you can always use your right-click shortcut menu to pick a specific O-snap, or you can type in O-snaps too. Again, we'll talk about those later. Now, the other toggle that you're going to use for your function keys is the F8 key. F3 and F8 you will use the most because those are two of your biggest drawing aids. F3 is for the running O-snaps, and F8 will turn on your ortho mode. Ortho mode right now is turned on for me. When I draw a line, as an example, this line will be orthogonally projected, meaning it's going to be perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical. That's nice. Now, if I start the line command again, and I turn off my ortho by pressing F8, I can draw the line at any angle. It's not constrained or locked in any way. So you're going to toggle off and on your running O snaps and your ortho projections off and on all the time. That's a constant back and forth. Those are two buttons that you would often program into like a 5-button mouse so that you can quickly and on the fly turn those things off and on, especially the F8 key. Now the F1 key is another one you're going to use often. And a lot of times you're going to hit it by accident because the escape key and the F1 key are right next to each other. The escape key cancels one of your commands. So if you're trying to draw the line and now I made a mistake, I don't want that, you hit the escape key. Well, a lot of times you fat finger it and you press the F1 key instead. For example, if I start a line and say, oh no, don't want to do it, I press escape, I'm out of the line command. Well, if I start the line command and I want to stop, I go to press the escape key, but I miss and I hit F1. Well, what does that do? Menu. And when you're in a command and you open up help, it will open up the help section for that command. So I was in the line command and now it brought up help for the line. A lot of people find this annoying. Open up the help section for that command. So I was in the line command and I brought up help. F1 brings up the help menu. And when you're in a command and you open up help, it will open up the help section for that command. So I was in the line command and now it brought up help for the line. A lot of people find this annoying. Annoying. So bad annoying that many people have been known to rip off their F1 key because they hate it so badly. Another function or toggle switch that you're going to use is the F2 key. Press it. That will open up your command text window. Press it again to close it. And remember, the function keys are toggle switches, so they will turn things off or on depending on the current state. If something is off, it will turn them on. If they're on, it will turn them off, or something like that. Now, F4 will toggle your 3D O snaps on. Now, these are your running O snaps, but they're for 3D functionality. That's only in AutoCAD. In AutoCAD LT, it reverts back to the old functionality before this new feature was introduced. That is in toggling on an old drafting tablet. So I haven't used a drafting tablet with AutoCAD in many years, but they were really cool. We used them often when AutoCAD was still in DOS and not in Windows, and it had a lot of the ribbon-like functionality on the tablet itself. So you probably aren't going to use that anymore, or ever again even. Now, let's keep going. F5 will toggle through isometric planes. This will help you to draw different isometric drawings. We'll look at this later on, but if you press F5, it will turn you on to an isoplane on the top, right, or left. Again, we'll take a closer look at drawing in isoplanes later on, but those are great for creating 3D isometric views or creating a PNID sheet. Those are really cool, or some circuit drawings. Now F6 will turn on a dynamic UCF or turn it off again. Again, that's just in AutoCAD, not in AutoCAD LT. That is a ever-changing coordinate system based on the user input for a face of a 3D object. So if you want to work with a cube and you want to draw in a coordinate system that's based on the face of one of your objects, like the cube, then it will dynamically, or as you're working, it will automatically change your current coordinate system to match that. So again, that's only in AutoCAD and not in AutoCAD LT. F7 will toggle your grid off and on, as you can see on my screen now. And F9 will turn your snap mode on or off. This will cause your crosshairs to snap or automatically go to specific points on the grid. So for example, if I had turned it on, I would only be able to go to the points on the grid. And that depends on your settings for your drawing. We'll talk about that later on. F10 turns on polar tracking, which is another type of snapping and orthogonic projection, but based on polar coordinates. F11 turns your O-snap tracking off and on. And again, both of these, we're going to look at them a little bit later. But the O-snap tracking on is really cool because then I can draw a line to a place that's based on the line work of something else. And you see that green line that comes as I move around my drawing? That's the tracking. Now, it will take the line and follow it and project it, whichever line it is I'm drawing from. And so I can go or snap to places that don't exist but are sort of inferred or arbitrary. So that's a very useful tool as well. Again, these tracking devices, the polar tracking and the OSNAP tracking, we'll talk about them later on in more in depth in a section. But the function keys, they turn on and off these certain tools that allow you to draw more accurately or draw better even. Make sure to watch the video pertaining to each of these tools for more in-depth descriptions for them. And in an earlier video though, we did talk about entering commands into the command line. We mentioned the fact that there are command aliases. These are typically 1 or 2 keystroke long entries, some or more, that you use them to start a command. Like L for the line command. Instead of hunting for it on the ribbon, or instead of typing in the full word line, which honestly isn't really that difficult, but still, L, if I'm drawing lines all day, L saves me, well, let's see here, that's 1 keystroke that I have to type in no matter what. L-I-N-E, that adds 3 more keystrokes, then I press enter. So if I draw 10 lines, that's saving me 30 keystrokes, or it's saving me 30 times where I have to go up to the line command and then back to where I'm drawing again. Just L, enter, and I'm gone. They're a big time saver, especially over time. Another example is C for circle, or M for move, or CP for copy, etc. Now, there is a file that's called the PGP file, and you can edit that to change these aliases if you want to. It's a simple text file that you can open up in Notepad, and you can just edit it. You can add to it, you can change it, but there is a set pattern or a way that you need to do this in order for it to function correctly. It's really easy to get to. Go to the ribbon and go to the Manage tab. Go to the Customization panel and then click on the Edit Aliases button. This will open up the PGP file in Notepad for you. Here's a bit of legalese disclaimers saying, hey, if you mess with this file, you could really screw up AutoCAD, so be careful. And you know what? Yes, that is absolutely true. If you mess this up, the commands are still going to be there, like line or circle, but you're going to mess up the command aliases. So just be careful. You can scroll down all this part here. This is just giving you a bit of information on it. It's sort of a disclaimer so that Autodesk knows that you know what you're doing. Here are some examples of some things that you can do. Go down a little bit farther, and it gives you the format on how you need to type these in. Put in the alias, and then a comma, then an asterisk, and then the full command name. Yeah, it's really that simple. So let's look. Now, there's a command called 3D Array in AutoCAD. It's not there in AutoCAD LT because there's no 3D functionality in it. But you can type in 3D Array, or you can type in 3A. Much easier. That's a better solution for entering that command. So it's pretty simple. You put in the command alias that you want, and then a comma, and then you just tab over until you line this up with the rest of the text just to keep it visually consistent. And then you type in the full command. Here's a shortcut for arc. Arc's only 3 letters, but still, it helps. It saves 2 keystrokes. So mathematically, evaluating this savings in time, you're reducing the amount of time to start the arc command by 2 keystrokes. Now you need A, R, C, and then enter. So that's 4. You're cutting your time to start the arc command down by 50%. That's significant. And then you look at other things like this export to AutoCAD, and it's AEC to ACAD. In this case right here, what it's done is that this is an older command in AutoCAD that they don't want to get rid of, but they've replaced it with this command so that whenever you type it in, it will do this command. A little strange, I know, but that's what it is. So you can go through this entire list and look at all of the command aliases that there are. You can print this out and hang it up in your cubicle or on your wall or just study it. Put it on your refrigerator at home, and every time you go to get a glass of milk, you'll be able to read and study these shortcuts. Now you can see in here that some of these commands will show up twice, or more than twice even, like copy. Here's CO for copy, and then here's also CP for copy. There are a couple of reasons why some of this has happened. It used to be that people would customize these files in a pretty standard way. Some people didn't like that copy started with CP. They thought it didn't make any sense because copy is spelled COPY. So they started editing the PGP file, well, because you can and it's easy to do. So they put in CO. Well, Autodesk saw this and said, you know what, let's default this in. So you have essentially 3 ways to execute the copy command inside AutoCAD. You can type out copy, you can type out CO, or you can type out CP. It's up to you. A lot of people have even changed it to just the letter C. So, well, what happens then to the circle command? That's a great question, and I have an answer for you. And we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But we'll go down this list. As you can see, it's quite long. Not every command is in here in AutoCAD, but the majority of them are. Now you'll also notice as you scroll through here that there are command overrides that have been put in place after certain releases. A lot of these are alternatives that get rid of old commands or old functionalities, like the CP. This happened in AutoCAD Release 13. AutoCAD 2000, they put these in. Now in this case, these are commands for discontinued AutoCAD commands, meaning these commands right here in this left column no longer exist. So people were still using them even in AutoCAD 2000 when these commands were gotten rid of. And they didn't want people to get frustrated or to not know how to use the same or similar functionality. So people were putting in DDCHPROP for the change properties command, which was changed. And now you use the properties command. It functioned similarly, but yet had more to it. So when they type in the old command, they got the new one. That made things a lot easier for a lot of people. And that's something that you can do. Again, there's more and more and more. Now, we come down to the bottom, and this is where you should customize your file if you want to. Don't remove anything up here. Don't change anything up here. And I'll tell you why. Because if you ever need to revert back to the default settings, all you have to do is delete what you've done. You don't have to keep track of it in any way. You don't have to manage it in any way. You just put everything down here at the bottom. So this is pretty cool. Now, this is where that circle and copy thing came into play. The way AutoCAD reads this PGP file is that it starts at the very top. It starts here. And it reads the aliases that are listed. And it says, okay, 3A is the alias for 3D array. All right, great. It comes down, keeps going, and it says, okay, C is for circle. Great. Now, a lot of times people have changed that because they want to use the copy command more than the circle command, so they make C as to be copy, and they'll make CI for circle. So, well, what happens? Do I need to change it here? Well, you can, but don't. Come down here, and let's type in our new commands. We'll type in CI, comma, then we'll tab, make our asterisk, and then type in the circle command. Enter, save the file, and there you go. Now, whenever I type in CI for circle, AutoCAD knows that CI will start the circle command. And I can do this again. C, comma, tab over, asterisk, and copy. Okay. So we have a bit of a conflict here. We have the C command alias in here twice. One's for circle up above and one's for copy down here. Well, AutoCAD does what it was told last. So it sees literally up here in the top of the file that C is for circle. But when it gets down here, it says C is for copy. It says, oh, okay, it forgets the first one and does the second one. So I can leave everything that AutoCAD has given me intact, but I can add to it. Or I can change it. And if you say, no, I don't like this functionality anymore, I just delete it and everything goes back to my default settings. perfectly, untouched, clean, the way it should be. Just close, save your file, and you have your PGP functionality customized. That's a quick and easy way to make some changes, to customize AutoCAD to fit your needs and to fit the way you want to work. I do know a CAD drafter that had changed the PGP file so that all of the commands were available to him with just a left hand on the keyboard. So he put his left hand in the home position for typing, and everything was a Q, W, E, R, T, or a QQ, or a QQQ, or a W, etc. It took him some time, he said, to train himself to do that, but he said the benefit was that he never moved his hand from the left home position. That's an extreme case, trust me. In fact, I hardly ever customize the PGP file anymore. It's fantastic the way it is, and it's nice. So, there are some things that you can use with the keyboard that will help you in your efficiency in using AutoCAD. Those are the function keys, and those are the command aliases. You can program the aliases very easily, and you can help manage them in a very easy way. The user interface in AutoCAD is key in working efficiently. To help us out, AutoCAD has created workspaces. A workspace is an organized group of interface tools. Out of the box, AutoCAD comes with 4 workspaces. AutoCAD LT does not have the 3D workspaces that AutoCAD does. So it may look a little bit differently, but the functionality and the theory behind it is identical. Each one of these workspaces is different from the other, and each one fills certain needs and roles. And we've looked at changing them before, and you can come up to the quick access toolbar and quickly go through the different workspaces that you have available. Now in AutoCAD, you have the drafting and annotation. If you're doing just 2D work, that's typically where you're going to be at. You also have 3D basics and 3D modeling. Those are for 3-dimensional tools. AutoCAD LT does not have these. And you have the AutoCAD Classic workspace. This will revert the interface back to the way that things were before the ribbon became part of AutoCAD. Typically, you're going to stick with the drafting and annotation or the 3D modeling in AutoCAD, depending on your work. To switch between the available workspaces, you go to the Workspace Switching tool. You can come up here in the Quick Access toolbar, or you can go down to your status bar, and at this little gear, you can come to it. This is the actual Workspace Switching tool. You pick it, and you have all of these options and commands available to you. The check mark is for the workspace that is currently being used. To change workspaces, click on the arrow to open it up, and then pick the workspace you want to use. And that workspace will be loaded. Your ribbon will change, your tabs will change, your palettes will change, your toolbars, etc. Switching between workspaces is very easy to do. Find the one you want and click it. Now there are some things that you can do to manage your workspaces. Because AutoCAD is extremely customizable, you don't have to use what you're given. So you can make some changes. And you do that through the workspace setting buttons. You can get to them here in the Quick Access toolbar, or through here, through the Workspace Switching tool. If you make changes to your workspaces, you will need to save them. You can turn on the automatically save changes options here so that it will, or you can leave that turned off. But if you're constantly tweaking your interface workspace on a daily basis, you're going to want to keep this on. Otherwise, when you come back to work the next day and you reboot your computer, turn AutoCAD back on, you won't have those changes made. But if you're afraid you're going to mess something up, then don't, and you just manually save your workspaces as you're going. Now, if you want to make your own workspace, and I really suggest that you do, it's possible that you want to just tweak it a little bit, or you want to completely revamp it, that's fine. But before you do that, don't mess with the out-of-the-box workspaces for a couple of reasons. One is that if you mess it up, which can happen, then you have something to go back to that you know is going to work. The other reason is that if someone else needs to work on your computer for you to help you out with something, and if you've really changed the way it looks, they may not be able to use it to help you. So what you should do is keep these intact and then make a new one. It's very easy to do. You can give it your name so that you know it's yours. You can give it a description because maybe there's a specific type of drawing that you want to make and you need specific tools. So you can do that. So to get started, pick on the Save Current As button and give it a name. I'm going to give mine just my initials and just call it 01. Not very creative, I know. But this is just an example. So I tell you what, we'll call it BCB, which are my initials. We'll call it Example Workspace. And I'll even spell example correctly. Now I click Save. This saves everything the way I have it right now. As you can see, it tells me this is the current workspace. It is now an option for me to pick. This is great. So now I can come down here and go to my workspace settings. And now I definitely want to automatically save my workspace changes. This is the one I'm going to use the most because it's my own personal settings. I'm going to select it, highlight it, and move it up. Now it will always appear at the top. I can add a separator as well. That way I know that these are all of the default ones. Click OK. I'll show you how it's going to look. When I come up here, here's mine, and here are the default ones. I know not to leave these alone, and I can use this separator to help me visually organize my available workspaces. So now that I have one saved, and I basically have my sandbox to play in here, what can I do? Well, there's a lot. You can just start, essentially, by clicking on the Customize button. Here are my workspaces that I have available. This is the one I'm currently using, and it's the one that I want to edit. What we've opened up here is called the Customize User Interface, or the CUI. This is the manager for that. In here, you can change the characteristics of your workspace. I won't get too deep into this, real super deep, because it can get real hairy and it doesn't really fit the scope of this video, but I do want to show it to you a little bit because there are a lot of quick and easy and simple things that you can do to change your workspace environment. You can work in your ribbon, you can work in your quick access toolbar right here. You can make a new one and toggle between different ones. You can make new ribbons, you can make new toolbars, new tabs, new panels, etc. But if you want to edit this, select it and right click and pick the Customize Workspace option. Now this is going to show everything that I have in here on my right. All of my menus, all of my palettes, and all of my ribbon tabs. And in each ribbon tab, all of my panels. Now you can't add a command to the ribbon, but you can add a command to a ribbon panel. And then you add the ribbon panels to the ribbon tabs. And that's how you customize it. Now, here's a quick way of things that you can do. If you want toolbars on, you open up this toolbar by clicking on the little plus sign over here. And you pick the ones you want. Whatever has a checkbox on it means it will be there. So let's say I want the draw toolbar. And, all right, that's all I really want. Not a problem. Now let's look at the ribbon. What tabs do I want? Now, this is only available here for the 3D tabs and things for AutoCAD, not for AutoCAD LT. But I can turn them all on if I wanted, or I can turn some of them off. These are contextual tabs. You're going to get these no matter what, because a contextual tab, we'll talk about those a little bit later on, are ones that will come up only during a specific command. So, for example, when I'm working on hatches, the Hatch Editor contextual tab will pop up, giving me the controls for editing a hatch pattern. Now that I need it while I'm working with a hatch pattern or hatch object. So it's contextual. So it won't be up there until I need it. And that's nice. So let's just add some things to it. Let's say here, I don't want the render. I don't want parametric. I don't want the output or the insert. I just want some of these things. We keep it very short, very simple, and we're good. Now I can even come over here and I can see and verify, yes, it has what I want. and we're good to go. I can go and make these changes, all that I need to. So basically, to organize this, all I need to do is just turn these things on and off as appropriate or as I want. Then when I'm finished, I right-click on my workspace, hit exit, and I'm good to go. Hit OK, and then AutoCAD will update my workspace accordingly. And now you can see I have a lot less options up here because I don't need them for what I'm doing, and I have my draw toolbar all the way on the left part of the screen. So that's a real quick and easy look, a real short look at the custom user interface manager. You can turn palettes on or not, you can turn the command line off or on, etc. Now, another thing that will happen is I can put on my properties palette or any other palette, set that up, and since I have my autosave feature turned on, this is going to show up every time, and this is the way I'm going to use it, and this is the way I want it. So when I close out for the day or I switch workspaces, this is going to be saved. So let's go back to my regular drafting and annotation workspace. See, all the changes that I've made are not here. But when I go back, they'll pop up. And there you go. So this is nice, this is easy. And if you have multiple screens that you're using, when you customize things that way, they'll stay there as well. So this is good. And this is a nice way to get the exact tools you need. So maybe you want to just have a ribbon that has nothing to do with anything except for dimensioning your detail work. You can do that. You can set up a workspace for that. You can call it dimensioning workspace, etc. So you make that change, boom, you have the tools that you want, similar to maybe something on the annotate tab, and you can work the way you want with the tools that you need.